Hey everyone, Rob here. It's time for a couple new ProRevenge stories. Boss blocks my promotion, I block his job. Let's jump right in. Did you know 68% of people who watch my videos aren't even subscribed to the channel? You don't want to be one of those people. Come on, hit that subscribe button. You know you want to. For background, I work in a very competitive part of the service industry. It's a large enough community, but at the same time, it's small enough where someone somewhere in the industry knows you, so it's important not to burn bridges, as one day you might find yourself in a disadvantageous position. I was in my position for a good 3 years as middle management. No callouts, never late, always stayed after to help my team out, worked on projects that belonged to my bosses, etc. Except for one day, which I had gotten in a car accident. I was working the night shift, and it was raining. This is important later in the story. And was unable to go into work as my car was undrivable, and I had to wait for tow truck, insurance, and trying to find a ride late night, early morning was very difficult. At the time, my director had been let go, and there was a bloodbath, pissing contest, to see who would get his promotion. For hierarchy purposes, it's my director, my direct bosses, all on same level of authority, 3 of them, then me. One of the direct bosses, let's call him Dick, decided he was getting the promotion and started shaking our department, restructuring projects, changing people's shifts, taking credit for other people's work. He was a real pain. About a few weeks of this, he had decided to switch me from morning shifts, which I had gotten due to my seniority in the team, into night shifts. I didn't make a stink because we were very short-handed, also important, and the team needed help as we had newer members who had children, and I understood how this could affect their life. Fast forward a few more weeks, and I get into the car accident, which made me call out. This didn't sit well with him, as I had made the team suffer because of my irresponsibility. Laugh out loud. What? I didn't think much of it, since I knew it was stressful and people tend to say things they don't mean under stress. Soon after that, I met some higher-ups from another department. They offered me a job in a new venture the business was exploring. I was a good candidate because of my experience and work traits. Of course, I agreed, as this would be a promotion in position and salary, plus my network of contacts would put me in a position to grow even further. I went through a series of interviews, 3 in total, and I was given the opportunity to take the position. I signed my paperwork and shook the hand. A couple of days later, HR called me saying the position was rescinded and that it shouldn't come as a surprise. I was shocked and asked for a meeting to understand the decision. Cue the day of the meeting. I walked in and HR is sitting in the meeting room with Dick. After the cordialities, Dick explains that he blocked my promotion because I had attendance issues, which I had one call out due to my accident. And HR chimed in saying this shouldn't deter me from applying again in 6 months. Laugh out loud, okay. I accepted defeat because I still needed my job and I didn't want to paint a target on my back. A couple of days later, a friend of mine that worked close to Dick had told me Dick had made the comment that he didn't want to let me go because I would leave the night shift uncovered, and no one would easily accept that shift. I was furious, but decided to not act on it. As I explained earlier, it's a small enough business. A few months later, the competition opened up close enough that a few people left to go there. I was one of them. I was hired by an amazing boss who I am still friends with years after. He offered me a great position and a huge raise in salary. For hierarchy purposes, it was my boss, then me, and my counterpart, then our assistants. I had heard through the grapevine that Dick had gotten rejected from the director position and was leaving the company. About a week or so later, I was looking at new hires with my boss to fill out my counterpart position. My boss calls me and says, "Hey look, this guy comes from the company you come from." To my delight, I saw Dick's name. I had been hiring people to the assistant positions from previous company, so I guess Dick thought he was next. I told my boss the story about Dick and how he blocked my promotion. All my boss said was, TBNT, thank you, but no thank you. We didn't even give him an interview. Looking back at it, we should have given him the interview and just said no. It would have made it sweeter. Like I said before, don't burn bridges if your industry is small. I think every food industry job has its Dick. And you guys can probably confirm that because I know a lot of you, like me, worked in food service at one point. So tell me down below the story about your Dick in food service. On to our second story. How I got my Spanish teacher fired. Let's jump right in. I had just joined a new charter school for my sophomore year. I had just turned 15 at the time, and I was new to my high school, and one of my classes for the new school year was Spanish. Now, as a Mexican, I am ashamed to not know Spanish, so I took the class to help myself communicate with my family. Our Spanish teacher was a nice old woman, and we shall call her Mrs. Sanchez. For protective reasons, she had been born in South America and was a native Spanish speaker, but had moved to America to get her teaching degree. For the first week, she had been a pretty nice old lady. She was fun, a bit hard to understand with her accent, but fun nonetheless. However, later on, about 2 or 3 weeks into the school year, she was teaching Spanish oddly. Some of the things that stick in my mind that she said was that the letter W wasn't in the Spanish alphabet. It is, it just isn't used or pronounced in Spanish often. Well, these things had been bothering the class for quite a while. Just across from the high school is an elementary that is part of the same district. The elementary goes from kindergarten to 8th grade. From there, the 8th grader can graduate and come to our high school for their 4 years of high school. Anyway, Miss Sanchez's class was mainly a freshman and sophomore year class. Freshmen and sophomores, much like me, noticed Sanchez's incorrect way of Spanish, and many of those students went to the elementary to complain. They went to the main Spanish teacher there. She was loved by practically every student there. Not only that, she was my aunt. Let's call her Mrs. Moreno. Mrs. Moreno, hailing from Mexico and a native speaker, was my aunt who taught at the elementary school. Many of her past kids complained to her, but I was the one to go and burst Mrs. Sanchez's bubble. I finally complained to my mom about the Spanish I was being taught, and fed up, my mom decided to talk to her sister, my aunt, Mrs. Moreno, about this. As you can expect, to hear all these complaints and then a complaint from her nephew, Mrs. Moreno raised hell. As far as I've been told, Mrs. Moreno didn't want to waste any time with dealing with a faulty teacher. From what I know, Mrs. Moreno went and complained to the administration superintendents about a teacher teaching students things completely wrong. For the entire first semester, we had to deal with Mrs. Sanchez. We heard her talking and teaching us all wrong, but I had known it was a matter of time before she was gone. The rest of the class, as you can guess, was clueless of what was to come and only moaned as she taught us wrong the entire first semester. Then it happened. We had just released for winter break, 2 weeks of no school and us just kicking back and enjoying our holiday season. I dreaded the first day going back, but something was up. We, the students, had walked into class only to notice things missing. There were masses of items that were gone that had belonged to Mrs. Sanchez. The class was practically barren. We had a sub that day and the next day, until on the third after we returned, I questioned my mom. That was when she laid it all out for me. Mrs. Moreno had gotten Mrs. Sanchez fired with all of her complaints. Had the students kept complaining, my aunt said she would just thought Mrs. Sanchez was hard on the students. It wasn't until I made my complaint of what she was doing wrong that my aunt took action. I single-handedly got a teacher fired because of my complaint. I'm 17 now, and sometimes I wonder what Sanchez is doing nowadays. I wonder if she got her teaching license revoked. Well, that was a short and sweet story that seems to not even have the slightest little bit of ProRevenge in it. I'm assuming the mods will probably remove this one from the subreddit very soon. I want to thank both OPs for posting their stories to the ProRevenge subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description below. Please go there and give them an upvote. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends. And we'll see you in the next one.